Welcome back, guys. Tanso GR86 Season 7, Week 4, Race 7. And this week we're at Virginia International Raceway for the North Course configuration. I've got to say, this is not my favourite course at all. And this North configuration is a tricky old beast. But let's see how the professionals that we have in the Tanso Race Group manage it this week then. So the grid lines up with Stuart Court up front, followed by Dan Wirham in second, Tom Bland in third, Eric Ronenberg fourth, Sean Webber fifth, followed by Mark Brown. Newcomer Cyril Blanco this week in seventh, Ryan Dudley, then Jack Holland in ninth, Tony Lamb in 10th, Richard Flutie in 11th, Eugene Webber is there in 12th, and then after that we have Dan Bartosh in 13th, Martin Shirley 14, Scott Kostrick 15, Joel is in 16th, followed by Peter Woodmore, Lee Rylands, Mark Proctor, Neil Kennedy, a newcomer Jake Dade in 21st, Rob Sutherland, Niles Cooler, Dan Forster, and a big field this week. After Dan, we have Dave Clark, Stuart Briley, Adrian Hatfield, John Johnston, Christopher Smith, and Chris Thorpe. Makes up 30 runners. What a field. Ever popular. So here we go to the starting grid. Here we are, ready to go. Stuart Court up front, followed with Dan Wirham. What happened there? Not quite sure. But was that Eric Ronenberg lost it? Tom Bland. Didn't quite notice that, but Stuart Court takes us round into the horseshoe for the first time, followed by Dan Wirham and Tom Bland. Yeah, that was Tom Bland. We went a bit skew with off the start line. Come round Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber, Mark Baum and Ryan Dudley, and we're safely through in NASCAR Bend, and Stuart Court takes them out front, followed by Dan Wirham. With Tom Bland, Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber, and then we come round into the uphill section. Very tricky and slippy up here. As we come up the top, it comes a bit blind as well. And Stuart Court's got a 300ths lead over Dan Wirham, followed by Tom Bland and Eric Ronenberg. Sean Webber following up the back, then Mark Brown a second and a half behind them, with newcomer Cyril Blanco. Tricky old section this, as they come down the hog pen for the first time on to the home finish straight, and it's Stuart Court ahead of Dan Wirham, Tom Bland, Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber, Mark Brown, Cyril Blanco and Jack Holland, followed by Ryan Dudley and Dan Bartosh. Come round the horseshoe. Stuart Court's holding them honest here, with Dan Wirham now trying to put some pressure on. Tom Bland very close behind him. So these three only separated by a couple of tenths here. So we come into the left hook and then through into the snake. And it's Stuart Court, Dan Wirham, Tom Bland, followed by Eric Ronenberg and Sean Webber. Then 2 seconds back to Mark Brown, Cyril Blanco, and we've got some trouble at the back there with Ryan Dudley. And Ryan's off there. Quite sure what's happened there. As we come through up to the hill there, we've got Ryan Dudley, Richard Flutie, then Joel and Scott Kostrick. Look like they're all safely through. We go back out front, and Stuart Court is now under pressure from Dan Wirham. As we come up the start-finish straight, Stuart Court now really being pushed. Dan trying to go to the inside. Is he going to try and go round the outside on the horseshoe? This is very slippy here at the best of times. No, he's going to... Well, he is going to try and hold it. Not quite got it, and that's let Tom Bland come up the inside of Dan Wirham. But Dan Wirham's got the inside there as we come round into the NASCAR bend. They go wide. Stuart Court under pressure from Dan Wirham, and Tom Bland not far behind, followed by Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber. Now Tom Bland has put enough pressure on Dan Wirham now to make him drop back from Stuart Court. There's virtually nothing in it as Dan Wirham now has got Tom Bland up the inside as they come uphill. Dan Wirham on the inside, and we switch to Tom Bland on the inside. As we come up the hill, I think Dan Wirham was just sneaking ahead there, and Eric Ronenberg ever closer as these guys fight. And we look, Dan Wirham's now stretched out half a second over Tom Bland. Stuart Court's pulled a second ahead with all that infighting going on behind. And we look at Tom Bland with Eric Ronenberg close behind and Sean Webber close behind him. They're now spreading out a bit with half a second between each, but Mark Brown takes place from Cyril Blanco. So Mark Brown now stretching out a lead on Cyril Blanco, but Cyril Blanco comes back up the inside, coming around the NASCAR bend. Then we come round into the left hook. Mark Brown's got the inside. And he cuts Cyril off. No place to go there for Cyril. And Mark Brown starts to stretch out the gap again, up to half a second there. We switch back to Tom Bland, who's now close on the tail of Dan Wirham again. Just 3/10 off as we go uphill. We come round the squiggly bit into the roller coaster, and Tom Bland has got Dan Wirham closely in his sights as we come up to the round the corner, round the hog pen into the start finish straight. Tom Bland putting Dan Wirham nicely under pressure with Eric Ronenberg half a second behind, and Mark Brown 2 seconds back there. Cyril Blanco close on his tail. So Tom Bland now closing down Dan Wirham. Less than 2/10 between them as they come around the horseshoe. Distance to Stuart Court has been cut down to less than half a second as Tom Bland gives Dan Wirham some breathing space. Stuart Court stretching the lead out about half a second back to Dan Wirham, and then Tom Bland is really putting the pressure on Dan Wirham. As we come uphill, Mark Brown and Cyril Blanco there exchanging blows. Really close fighting there between these two. But I think Mark Brown's got it. He has as we come back down the hill. Stuart Court now. Less than half a second. Dan Wirham has now stretched out the gap between him and Tom Bland, and is now free to chase down Stuart Court. 3/10. So Eric Ronenberg close on the back of Tom Bland. Tom Bland under pressure from Eric as we come round the horseshoe. Tom Bland goes slightly wide. Eric takes advantage, but he's going to be on the outside coming round NASCAR bend, and then he tries to switch to the inside. Not quite made it. And the four of them go through the NASCAR bend. Stuart Court, Dan Wirham, Tom Bland, Eric Ronenberg 3 seconds back to Mark Brown, who is under pressure again from Cyril Blanco. We had an exciting little battle as we came round to uphill last time. Let's stay with Mark Brown. He got Cyril Blanco close on his tail coming up uphill. He's going to try and push him. He's trying to find a way around his Cyril. He's diving from the inside, becomes the outside. He's not going to make it. And we come round onto the roller coaster. And Mark Brown just about holds off Cyril as we come down the roller coaster into the start-finish straight. We go back out front. Dan Wirham chasing down Stuart Court now. Less than 2 tenths as we come through into the horseshoe. Dan Wirham gone for the outside. I bet he tries to cut back on the inside, but I'm not sure he's going to make it. No, and that just allows Tom Bland to catch up with Eric Ronenberg close on his tail. Dan is trying everything he can to find a gap, and it's not happening. As Stuart Court makes a mistake, goes out wide, loses some traction, allows Dan Wirham to get back in. And we come round the left hook into the snake. Tom Bland now putting Dan Wirham under pressure. Really close fighting up as we go uphill. And we have Stuart Court 2 tenths back to Dan Wirham, and then 3 tenths back to Tom Bland. Eric Ronenberg closely behind him, and Mark Brown and Cyril Blanco are at it again as they come uphill. If Cyril's favourite part of the track as they go back down into the roller coaster. Managed to get some real speed up there to get on his tail. And now Stuart Court has got Dan Wirham back for company as they come down the start-finish straight. You get some of that toe, and then Tom Bland is right on the back of Dan Wirham this time. So instead of Dan putting pressure on Stuart, it is Tom Bland up the inside of Dan Wirham, and he's got him. Tom Bland manages to keep the overtake, and Eric Ronenberg does a sneaky through. 2 for 1. Dan Wirham has really lost out there. He's gone from 2nd to 4th in one corner, but he's fighting back, trying to come on the inside as we come through the NASCAR bend and into the left hook. He's not going to do it. So Dan Wirham ends up in 4th in the space of 2 corners. Absolutely amazing. So Stuart Court now under pressure from Tom Bland as we come to the uphill. Closely followed by Eric Ronenberg and Dan Wirham. Stuart Court takes them down into the roller coaster and around into the hog pen. Stuart Court holding off Tom Bland by 2 tenths, and Eric Ronenberg over half a second behind with Dan Wirham 2 tenths there. Further back we've got Rob Sutherland. Oh, we've got Scott Kostrick dropping through the field. Something must have happened to Scott. There's no damage on, so not quite sure what's happened there. But Scott's just got taken by Adrian and Chris Thorpe, who are having a bit of a fight as they come across the start-finish line here. And it's, whoa, as Scott Kostrick goes on the grass to try and take Adrian Hatfield on the inside. Doesn't quite happen. Chris Thorpe holds him as they come round into the horseshoe. Adrian Hatfield is going to try and go round the outside. That's not going to happen. And he's got Scott Kostrick now on the inside, and pushing closely up behind is good old JT. And Adrian Hatfield there holding off Scott Kostrick to come into the NASCAR bend. Whoa! Scott Kostrick went for a burn there. I don't know whether it was a little touch from John Johnston, but off they go. All right, back out front. We see Tom Bland's now got ahead of Eric Ronenberg and Stuart Court as we come across the start finish. Sorry guys, we missed all of that as we were watching further back in the field. Tom Bland out front, in front of Eric Ronenberg by 3/10, closely followed by Stuart Court, 2/10 there back, and then Dan Wirham half a second, and Mark Brown now 3 seconds behind the top 4. Closely followed by Cyril Blanco. Tom Bland takes him round the NASCAR bend as Eric Ronenberg tries to get closer with Stuart Court on his tail. Coming through the snake. And Eric Ronenberg really close up the back of Tom Bland. Is he going to try and get him on uphill? Doesn't think it's going to happen. And anyway, he's got Stuart Court now really trying to close him down. Slippy bit of track this as they come round onto the roller coaster. They all hold their positions. Tom Bland holding off Eric Ronenberg, Stuart Court, Dan Wirham. 3 seconds back to Mark Brown, closely followed by Cyril Blanco, and then Jack Holland 4 seconds behind him, with Sean Webber, Ryan Dudley and Joel in 10th. As we come across the start-finish straight, and Tom Bland holds the lead from Eric Ronenberg, closely followed by Stuart Court, with Dan Wirham now over half a second back. And if we go further back here, we see Cyril Blanco just take in Mark Brown as we just before we come into the horseshoe. There's a back marker there. Mark Brown trying to force his way through on the inside. Cyril's gone wide, and he has. Mark's got him. Cyril's trying to fight his way back as we come through to NASCAR bend, but I don't think Cyril's gonna do it. Oh, he might take a dive down the outside. Not quite close enough there. And we look at Stuart Court and Dan Wirham fighting it out for 3rd and 4th. Whoa! And we've just seen Eric go there, was that? It was Eric. Tom Bland, Stuart Court. 1.5 seconds now between Tom Bland and Stuart Court after that, with Dan Wirham a second behind, 2 seconds back to Mark Brown with Cyril Blanco. Whereas poor old Eric is back in 7th now. Doesn't seem a week go by without Eric having some little come together. Cyril and Mark Brown providing this week's major entertainment. These two battling it out tooth and nail as we come up the start finish straight. Cyril Blanco on the outside as we enter into the horseshoe. Will he be able to hold it? Mark Brown's definitely got the inside here. Cyril Blanco goes in front. Oh, Mark's gone too wide. Mark's gone. Cyril's taken it. And Cyril is off, and crikey, we're now 3 seconds back to Mark Brown, Jack Holland. We really have spread out now. So we go back up front. We'll see Tom Bland there. 2.5 back to Stuart Court. 7/10 back to Dan Wirham. 3 seconds Cyril Blanco. 3 seconds back to Mark Brown. And 2 seconds to Jack Holland. But Jack Holland is in the lead of a trail here with Eric Ronenberg trying to fight his way back from 7th after that coming together earlier. Ryan Dudley close on the tail, Sean Webber, and then 9 seconds back to Joel. Dan Bartush goes up the inside of Lee Rylands coming up uphill. Lee Rylands takes the lead off him again as they come over the top. Dan Bartush trying to fight for it. Not going to make it as they come into the roller coaster. So it's Lee Rylands, Dan Bartush and Martin Shirley, closely followed by Mark Proctor in the M&M car. They come down in the hog pen and separate it out. We go up to Eric Ronenberg, fighting it out with Jack Holland and Ryan Dudley. Ryan Dudley takes the inside off of Jack Holland. Jack's going to have to go wide there. Not going to be able to hold it. Ryan Dudley, but he's got him on the inside now, has Jack, as they come round for the NASCAR bend. Eric goes a little wide, but Jack holds it. Jack's just holding off Ryan Dudley here as we come through into the snake. Eric Ronenberg leading this trio. Jack Holland and Ryan Dudley putting him under pressure. Ryan Dudley goes for the outside for uphill. That's not going to happen. Oh, and Eric Ronenberg's off again for uphill. Right, he cuts across the grass. I'm not sure if he'll get a slowdown for that or not, but it's definitely an off track. That's left Jack Holland to run away with it. Ryan Dudley closely behind, and Eric Ronenberg really on the push after that mistake, and Sean Webber in the mix too. So we got Tom Bland here, ahead of Stuart Court, as we come through the snake for what probably be the last time. Closely followed by Dan Wirham. Tom Bland's got a comfortable 8/10 lead as we come uphill. Stuart Court is under pressure from Dan Wirham, who's only just a 10th behind. And we come down into the roller coaster. Tom Bland's holding it off from Stuart Court and Dan Wirham. Tom Bland's going to take this home, and he does, over the start-finish line. And we've got Tom Bland from Stuart Court, Eric Ronenberg, Dan Wirham. Cyril Blanco comes in 4th. Good first time out for Cyril there. We go back to Mark Brown from Jack Holland, Ryan Dudley, Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber, Eugene Webber, closely followed by Joel, Lee Rylands, Dan Bartush, Martin Shirley, Mark Proctor, Jake Dade, Neil Kennedy, Pete Woodmore. And that's got us everyone over the line. Well, wasn't that an exciting race there? Absolutely amazing stuff. So we see the winner, Tom Bland from Stuart Court, Dan Wirham, Cyril Blanco, Mark Brown, Jack Holland, Ryan Dudley in 7th, Eric Ronenberg ends up back in 8th, Sean Webber in 9th, Eugene Webber in 10th, Joel in 11th, 12th is Lee Rylands, then Dan Bartush, followed by Martin Shirley, Mark Proctor, Jake Dade, Neil Kennedy, Pete Woodmore, and then we've got a few more. with Niles Cooler in 20th, Richard Flutie, Stuart Briley 21st, Rob Sutherland, Adrian Hadfield, Chris Thorpe, John Johnston. And there we have it, guys. Dan Forster, Christopher Smith, Tony Lamb, Scott Kostrick, and Dave Clark at the back of the field. Thank you for watching, and here's to race 8 coming up shortly. Well, bit of a false start there. Here we go, race 8. We've got Sean Webber out front, followed by Ryan Dudley, Eric Ronenberg. Now we've got a reverse grid here, so it's all going to be very tight as we come round into the horseshoe, the faster cars, and as predicted, we can already see it kicking off at the back. Bit of contact going on there as Eric Ronenberg's now got the lead from Ryan Dudley, followed by Sean Webber, Mark Brown, Eugene Webber and Dan Weirham. It's all very close and tight. As you'd expect, Eric Ronenberg and Ryan Dudley running away with it. With Sean Webber and Mark Brown, a second and a half up front there. So as we come uphill for the first time, Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Sean Webber. Then we have a second and a half gap back to Mark Brown. Then Eugene Webber, Dan Weirham, closely on the tail of Eugene Webber there. Dan's going to put the pressure on, but he's also got Cyril Blanco behind him. And we know from the previous race that Cyril is a tough contender, was giving Mark Brown a lot of pressure through that last race. Oh, and Eugene Webber's gone wide. Whoa! Don't quite think he went into the pits. Hold your brakes. And Eugene Webber has really lost it there. Unfortunate. As we go back to Mark Brown, who's the second and a half behind Sean Webber now. So one Webber down, one to go. Sean Webber, though, he's on the tail of Ryan Dudley, just 2 tenths behind. So nothing to mess about with there. Sean Webber keeps Ryan Dudley honest as we come through the NASCAR bend and into the snake. Eric Ronenberg's away with it by 6 tenths as Sean Webber close on Ryan Dudley's tail. Second and a half back to Dan Weirham, who's under pressure from Cyril. Our man Cyril. Closely followed by Mark Brown, Stuart Court. This reverse grid really mixing it all up. So we've got Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Sean Webber, Dan Weirham and Cyril Blanco, who we're on here. As we come across the start finish, then Stuart Court, Jack Holland, Joel, Pete Woodmore, Martin Shirley, Neil Kennedy. So we go back out front. We've got Eric Ronenberg coming around the horseshoe, closely followed by Ryan Dudley and Sean Webber. And it looks like there's been some trouble. Cyril Blanco's gone off further back. We just missed that, unfortunately. Eric Ronenberg now a second ahead of Ryan Dudley, Sean Webber. 2.5 seconds back to Stuart Court, then Dan Weirham and Jack Holland. Going further back the field. Neil Kennedy in the mix here. 3 tenths behind Martin Shirley, and then Niles Cooler closely behind him. Takes Rob Sutherland, takes over Niles Cooler there. And then we've got Our friend Cyril trying to fight his way back. Pete Woodmore under pressure there from Martin Shirley. We're on board with Neil Kennedy here. We go back to Rob Sutherland and then Niles Cooler closely under pressure. As we come round into the horseshoe, we've got Martin Shirley and Neil Kennedy close together here. Oh, I think Cyril's just lost it on his own. Oh no, Joel Dementiu lost it in the horseshoe. All on his own. We're on with Martin Shirley and Rob Sutherland. As we come round into the NASCAR bend, Martin Shirley, Rob Sutherland, Niles Cooler. See what happened there with Cyril. Oh, he lost it. I'm trying to get Pete Woodmore under pressure. Cyril Blanco lost it. So we go back up to Eric Ronenberg, who's half a second now ahead of Ryan Dudley. I think that's Eugene Webber at the tail of the field there. Unfortunate for Eugene, started out on pole, had that accident coming down the roller coaster. We tried to make a fake pass into the pits but didn't quite make it. And Ryan Dudley now half a second behind Eric Ronenberg, Sean Webber. Now further back we've got Stuart Court under pressure from good old Dan Wirham. Dan Wirham comes up the inside as we come down the start finish straight into the horseshoe. Stuart's good, but I'm not sure he's going to be good enough to hold it in the horseshoe. No, Dan Wirham gets ahead. Stuart Court settles for fifth. Goes wide actually. Gives Dan Wirham even more space. Oh, Stuart Court goes off there. Jack Holland follows him. So we've got Dan Wirham, who's 2.5 seconds behind Sean Webber. But hot on his tail, he's got Stuart Court and Jack Holland trying to keep him honest. And then if we go back to Neil Kennedy here, we see Neil Kennedy closely followed by Martin Shirley and Rob Sutherland. Hard to tell apart these two. Similar liveries. As we come through the uphill, Neil Kennedy in the Fox livery car, closely followed by Martin Shirley and Rob Sutherland trying to close him down. We're all pretty spread out here. This is the closest fight we've got on the board at the moment, I think. Although going back up front, let's go and see what Sean Webber's doing here. I think he's trying to put some pressure on Ryan Dudley as we come across the start finish straight. He's about half a second quicker than Ryan there. Catching him up. Going around the horseshoe. Nothing giving there. Pretty evenly spread out. Eric Ronenberg half a second to Ryan Dudley. And then 0.3 back to Sean Webber. Dan Wirham 3 seconds behind, with Stuart Court 0.3 behind Dan Wirham. Martin Shirley trying one on Neil Kennedy here. Going to go up his inside into NASCAR bend. He's going to be able to hold it. Yep. Think he is. No, Neil Kennedy's trying to get it back in the snake. but he's going to get done by both of them by the looks of it. And he has. Martin Shirley, Rob Sutherland, both through on Neil Kennedy in the Snake as they come round to uphill. And I think Martin and Rob are probably both off here. Neil may have been holding them up a bit. Certainly looks like it. The gap that now Martin is pulling, although they're good, nearly 10 seconds behind Jack Holland. Ryan Dudley's catching Eric back up out front. As we look back from Eric's car, we can see Ryan Dudley close behind us, come over the start finish and come up to the horseshoe. Ryan Dudley within 2/10, trying to look for a place round. He tries to go for the inside as Eric goes a little wide. Ryan's got a bit of traction there, but Eric's got the inside as we come through and around into NASCAR Bend. Ryan Dudley trying to switch back, not quite making it. And guess what's happened there? That's let Sean Webber back in. So now the top three, rather than spread out, there's less than half a second between them as Eric Ronenberg comes around to uphill with Ryan Dudley 2/10 behind and Sean Webber only a couple of tenths behind him. Ryan Dudley goes left, right. Eugene Webber in the background trying to get out of the way. And as we come up the hill, Ryan Dudley has really got the pressure on Eric as we come down the roller coaster. And Sean Webber close behind. We come through into Hogpen. Now Ryan Dudley is going to have the toe as we come up the start finish straight into the horseshoe. They go out to the side having a look, see if there's a way round, and there isn't. So it's Eric Ronenberg from Ryan Dudley and Sean Webber as they come into the horseshoe. Nothing giving here, just a couple of tenths between them. Sean Webber seems to have lost a bit of traction there. He's 4/10 back, whereas Ryan Dudley is hanging on to Eric's tail. But they're seesawing and concertining backwards and forwards. And they come through the Snake. Round to uphill. Now we've got Eric 4/10 back, less than 4/10 back, Ryan Dudley, and then Sean Webber. All safely through. There we are, 12 minutes into the race. We come through Hogpen, and it's Eric Ronenberg with Ryan Dudley 4/10 behind, Sean Webber 3/10 behind, and then 2 seconds back to Dan Wirham. Stuart Court back 6/10. Jack Holland 2.5 seconds, and then a long way back to Martin Shirley in 7th, 12.5 seconds. So Ryan Dudley trying to put pressure on Eric here as we come round the horseshoe. 3/10 separates them with Sean Webber another 3/10 behind. This race is just the three of them at the moment, as Dan Wirham is over 2 seconds behind. Dan Wirham's got his own troubles though with Stuart Court on his tail. And he's come round again for uphill. Ryan Dudley goes left, right, tries to tuck under Eric. Nothing giving going up here. The only way we've seen people pass going through uphill is if someone goes off track. There's no real overtaking. Ryan Dudley's trying to put a change to that. Doesn't quite make it as we come round in the roller coaster and down the hill. Slippery part of the track this, especially hog pen. Track drops away from you as you come down the corner into the start finish straight. We have Eric Ronenberg closely followed by Ryan Dudley. He's very close this time, and in the draft he's going to cut that lead down. Will he be close enough to attempt to go round the outside on a horseshoe? Don't think Eric's going to fall for that one, but Ryan tries to cut back. Eric's got him cut off there. Nothing doing. Not giving an inch is Eric. And Sean Webber starts to put the pressure back onto Ryan Dudley as well. So Ryan Dudley's got to fight front and back now. Eric can just drive tight around this course. Nobody's going to get past him. But of course, we know Eric is liable to make mistakes every now and again. We've seen it happen before. As we come through uphill, Eric Ronenberg 3/10 back to Ryan Dudley, then Sean Webber 3/10 behind. Dan Wirham in fourth, 1.5 seconds behind the lead three. There goes Dan Wirham, closely followed by Stuart Court. These two battling it up as they come through into the roller coaster. Stuart trying to get on the tail of Dan Wirham. Dan taking big chunks out of the corners there, making that look ever so easy, and extends his lead in front of Stuart Court up to 1/2 second as we come down the hill, which is no small achievement really. But back out front now, we see Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley and Sean Webber still duking it out with only 3/10 between each of them. Dan Wirham still 1.5 seconds behind, and Stuart Court now 3/10 behind Dan Wirham. The gaps are fairly similar, and the action is similar too. Nothing much doing here, guys. Ryan through the snakes is closer than he's been, but I don't think he's going to see anything coming through into uphill. Just don't think there's any room to pass going up here. And if anything, Ryan goes a bit wide and allows Sean Webber to catch up. And all the time behind them, fourth place Dan Wirham, now under 1 second, followed by Stuart Court. Ryan Dudley tries to dive down the inside of Eric Ronenberg, but nothing doing as they go through into the roller coaster and down the slippery part of the track into the hog pen. Eric Ronenberg 3/10 back to Ryan Dudley. Sean Webber 6/10 behind him. Dan Wirham 1/2 second, and then Stuart Court 1/2 second, and 5 seconds back to Jack Holland. Top 5 now getting closer and closer, 17 minutes in. Pretty tame as we go around the horseshoe this time. Nothing happening here. I think everyone's taking a breather. I'm sure there'll be an attack come shortly. Wouldn't be like any of these to take it easy. And we can see the gap slowly closing down here between Eric and Ryan. 2/10 for Ryan Dudley on Eric. But we come to uphill. And we know unless Eric makes a mistake, Ryan Dudley's just not going to get through here. These cars are like they've got a bit of elastic between them. All 5 of them duking it out. Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Sean Webber, Stuart Court and Dan Wirham. Dan Wirham and Stuart Court now spread out a bit. 1 second between each of them. We got Jack Holland 5 seconds back. Rob Sutherland nearly 15 seconds behind them. So outside the top 5. It's a long old stretch back. But as we come round the start-finish straight, Eric's got a half a second up on Ryan Dudley, who's now trying to fend off Sean Webber. Closed in for a bit there, but nothing doing. Back nearly a second now to Stuart Court. Dan Wirham another second behind them. I don't know whether those guys are taking a bit of a rest. Oh, Stuart Court puts tyre in the dirt. Doesn't do much there. Dan Wirham still a second behind. All taking a bit of a breather. Christopher Smith further back in 9th under pressure from Cyril Blanco. Cyril giving us some exciting action in race 1. Trying to do it again. Really close on the tail of Christopher Smith here. As we come through into uphill, Cyril looks to the inside, but Christopher blocks that off. Up ahead of them, we've got Rob Sutherland and Martin Shirley. So, as we climb up the hill and go down into the roller coaster, Chris Smith 4/10 ahead of Cyril Blanco. Will Cyril wait to get round the hog pen and then try and get on him in the horseshoe? Oh, didn't need to. Christopher Smith has gone wide. Cyril Blanco's taken advantage of that. Christopher comes back on in front of Mark Proctor. He flashes him. I don't know where he thought he got a bit of a touch there. I certainly didn't notice it. So Cyril Blanco now ahead opportunistically of Christopher Smith and Mark Proctor behind, but we go back out front because Ryan Dudley, as we go into uphill, is putting pressure back on Eric Ronenberg, and Sean Webber has now caught up. So the top 3 are just as close as ever as they weave their way around the track with only a few minutes to go. But down the roller coaster, Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley 3/10 behind, Sean Webber 2/10, and then Stuart Court is a few tenths behind in 4th, and Dan Wirham sitting 2.5 seconds way back off of the top 4. Jack Holland 6 seconds behind, and Martin Shirley 16 seconds back. So we come around the horseshoe. Ryan Dudley goes inside, outside. Is he going to try to cut back? He does, and Eric's gone wide. Has Ryan Dudley done it? He's within hundredths. No, Eric's got the inside as we come round into NASCAR Bend. But has Ryan got the traction now? Ryan's desperately trying all the time though. Sean Webber and Stuart Court have caught right up onto Ryan's tail. And Sean Webber's got ahead of Stuart Court as they fight it out the back, and Ryan Dudley's now in trouble as Stuart Court comes through on Sean Webber. As we come to uphill, Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Stuart Court. Sean Webber's now a second back. So what was 4 is now 3, with Stuart Court just drifting off. But we know Stuart, as they come down the roller coaster, he will not let them get away if he can help it. Eric Ronenberg out front, Ryan Dudley, as they come round Hogben Pen into the start finish. Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Stuart Court, Sean Webber a second behind, Dan Wirham 2 seconds, Jack Holland 6 seconds, Cyril Blanco 17 seconds behind them. Right, 24 minutes on the timer here. All rather quiet as we come round the NASCAR bend. 2 tenths between Eric Ronenberg and Ryan Dudley. Stuart Court 3 tenths behind, but that is slowly closing down as well as we come through the snake. Stuart Court right on the back of Ryan Dudley there, ever looking for the opportunity as we go up the hill. Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley and Stuart Court lead the way. This is your top 3. I think guys probably going to finish like this as we come into the roller coaster. Eric Ronenberg 3 tenths back to Ryan Dudley and then Stuart Court. As we come down Hog Pen, and Eric Ronenberg ahead of Ryan Dudley. Up front is JT, we just saw there. Back marker. Ryan Dudley comes across. Eric Ronenberg comes across the line with Ryan Dudley close behind. 2 tenths, but Eric Ronenberg takes it from Ryan Dudley, Stuart Court, Sean Webber then back in 4th. Then we have Dan Wirham, Jack Holland coming across the line. Then Cyril Blanco we have in 7th. We come across the line there. Rob Sutherland, Christopher Smith, flashing away there, good race guys, and Martin Shirley in 10th, and Neil Kennedy on Mark Brown. Not much in it between those guys, and there we have it. Eric Ronenberg, Ryan Dudley, Stuart Court, Sean Webber, Dan Wirham. Back to Jack Holland in 6th, followed by Cyril Blanco, Rob Sutherland in 8th, Christopher Smith in 9th, and Martin Shirley in 10th. And the rest of them behind that with Neil Kennedy in 11th, Mark Brown, Richard Flutie, Mark Proctor, Niels Cooler in 15th, Joel in 16th, followed by Tom Bland, Lee Rylands, Scott Kostrick, Adrian Hetfield, Jake Day, Dan Forster, Stuart Briley, Chris Thorpe, Eugene Webber, John Johnston, Pete Woodmore, and right at the back there, Tony Lamb. Thank you guys, thanks for listening. As Barney waves the flag, we say goodbye from Virginia International Raceway. Until next time, thanks for watching.